Are you thinking of exploring the found footage subgenre and don't know where to begin? Or are you a fan who is just looking for some fresh and new suggestions? Well, don't worry, because this found footage watch list has you covered. Hi guys, I hope you're all doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. Last week we took a closer look at the origins and evolution of the horror subgenre found footage, but this week it's time to take a closer look at the must-watch gems that define the subgenre. From chilling explorations in haunted houses to terrifying encounters with otherworldly creatures, heart-stopping journeys into the wilderness and unnerving investigations of urban legends. I've curated a watch list guaranteed to keep you on the edge of your seat, including both the staples of the genre and a few lesser known gems. You guys seem to really enjoy my look into the evolution of found footage, which I'm so pleased about and grateful for all of the support on that episode, but now hopefully this episode will help you in your own exploration of the subgenre. Okay, so let's get started looking at the 25 films on this watch list. Peeping Tom is a British horror movie released in 1960. Loner Mark Lewis works at a film studio during the day and at night takes racy photographs of women. But in his spare time, he's making a documentary on fear, which involves recording the reactions of women as he murders them. At the time of release, this film was considered highly controversial because of its violent and sexual content, but has gone on to be recognised as an important and influential film in many horror subgenres, including psychological, slasher, and found footage. I recently watched this one for the first time, and I would highly recommend it. Ghostwatch is a British mockumentary film that was broadcast in 1992. For Halloween 1992, the BBC decides to broadcast an investigation into the supernatural, hosted by TV chat show legend Michael Parkinson. Parky and a camera crew attempt to discover the truth behind the most haunted house in Britain. Ghostwatch is an interesting one because it's treading similar ground to the 1938 radio broadcast of War of the Worlds, in that on its release, viewers were convinced that what they were seeing was real. This was filmed using real and respected TV presenters of the time, which added a level of realism to it. Influenced by the story of the Enfield haunting, the case that was also the inspiration for The Conjuring 2, Ghostwatch depicted the study into Britain's most haunted house. The Last Broadcast is an American film that was released in 1998. In December 1995, a four-man team from the public access program Fact or Fiction braved the New Jersey's desolate Pine Barrens, determined to deliver a live broadcast of the legendary Jersey Devil. Only one came out alive. 1 year later, a filmmaker decides to mount his own investigation. The Last Broadcast tackles ideas very similar to those found in the Blair Witch Project, but with a release date of 1998, The Last Broadcast actually predates that film by a whole year. It was in fact the Blair Witch Project that took inspiration from this film. And speak of the devil, next we have the Blair Witch Project, released in 1999. In October of 1994, 3 student filmmakers disappeared in the woods near Burkittsville while shooting a documentary about the legend of the Blair Witch. A year later, their footage was found, but there was no sign of the filmmakers. The Blair Witch Project is perhaps one of the most famous and well-known found footage films. It had huge commercial success on release, but was met with mixed critical reviews. While it's a film that not all horror fans can agree on, it is a staple of the subgenre. Nuroi the Curse is a Japanese horror film released in 2005. A prominent paranormal journalist named Kobayashi goes missing shortly after completing a documentary. What begins as an investigation into strange noises soon evolves into the chilling mystery of a demonic entity named Kagugaba. Nuroi the Curse has a solid rating on both IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, make of that what you will, but it has also been described as not only one of the best found footage films of the past 2 decades, but also one of the must-see scariest films in horror. Rec is a Spanish horror film released in 2007. Late-night TV host Angela and her cameraman are following the fire service on a call to an apartment building, but the Spanish police seal off the building after an old woman is infected by a virus which gives her inhuman strength. Rec is another highly rated found footage film. In fact, it has a 90% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, take that as you will, but Rec is regarded as an incredibly well-made horror film. It has a wonderfully tight runtime of 78 minutes, which makes it easy to pop on, but I will say that this is a very busy film. It is loud and the camera is very erratic, so you may have to be in the right mood for it. Once you are though, you're in for a treat. Paranormal Activity is an American horror film that was originally released in 2007 at Screamfest Horror Film Festival, with a theatrical release 2 years later in 2009. Soon after moving into a suburban tract home, Katie and Mika become increasingly disturbed by what appears to be a supernatural presence. Hoping to capture evidence of it on film, they set up video cameras in the house, but are not prepared for the terrifying events that follow. Along with the Blair Witch Project, Paranormal Activity is another well-known staple of the subgenre. It is also one of my personal favourite found footage films. With a small budget, improvised dialogue, and a simple premise, Paranormal Activity creates a very natural and intimate atmosphere with some genuinely great scare moments. Plus, if you're a fan of this one, then you also have another 6 films in the franchise. Not all of the same quality. Cloverfield is an American horror film that was released in 2008. 5 young New Yorkers throw their friend a going-away party the night a monster the size of a skyscraper descends upon the city. Cloverfield is a much bigger budget found footage film compared to some of the previous ones on this list. It also dabbles in creature feature, so if you like your horror to be a blending pot of subgenres, then this one could be for you. Lake Mungo is an Australian psychological horror film that was released in 2008. After 16-year-old Alice Palmer drowns in a local dam, her family experiences a series of strange, inexplicable events centered in and around their home. Unsettled, the Palmers seek the help of psychic and parapsychologist, who discovers that Alice led a secret double life. At Lake Mungo, Alice's secret past emerges. Lake Mungo is another mockumentary entry on the list, with a combination of found footage and docufiction footage. Compared to some of the faster-paced films on the list, Lake Mungo is a much slower build that also explores the aftermath of death. The Last Exorcism is an American horror film that was released in 2010. After years of performing exorcisms and taking believers' money, Reverend Marcus travels to rural Louisiana with a film crew so he can dispel what he believes is the myth of demonic possession. The dynamic Reverend is certain that this will be another routine exorcism on a disturbed religious fanatic, but instead comes upon the blood-soaked farm of the Sweetser family, and a true evil he would have never thought imaginable. Another film on this list blending subgenres, The Last Exorcism uses found footage to bring a fresh portrayal of the exorcism genre, which, let's be honest, is just as oversaturated. While not rated exceptionally high, you have to give credit for a film trying something new. Grave Encounters is a Canadian supernatural horror film that was released in 2011. A crew from a paranormal reality television show lock themselves in a haunted psychiatric hospital. They search for evidence of paranormal activity as they shoot what ends up becoming their final episode. Grave Encounters has been criticised as being pretty derivative and using too much CGI. However, it does manage to build an incredibly tense atmosphere and provide some pretty solid scares. It's also the first haunted asylum film on this list. The Tunnel is an Australian horror film that was released in 2011. A film crew learns of a government cover-up about the abandoned train tunnels beneath the heart of Sydney and decides to go inside to try to find the truth. Very quickly, the group begins to realise that perhaps the cover-up was for a good reason. The Tunnel is perhaps one of the most lesser-known films on this list, or maybe I'm wrong, but no less deserving to be here. Apollo 18 is an American-Canadian co-production horror film that was released in 2011. Officially, Apollo 17 was the last manned mission to the moon, but a year later in 1973, 3 American astronauts were sent on a secret mission to the moon funded by the US Department of Defense. The astronauts encounter eerie happenings which prevents their return journey to Earth and reveals the reason the US has never returned to the moon. This is one on the list that I haven't seen yet, but I'm kind of dying to. It's another found footage film that has been used to create a fresh take on another subgenre, in this case, a space/alien horror. VHS is an American anthology horror film that was released in 2012. A group of burglars who have the habit of filming their crimes on tape get hired by an unknown accomplice to break into a house and steal a VHS tape with some valuable footage. The VHS franchise is one that is beloved by many horror fans and at this point has 5 sequels with another one in the works. While personally I find the collection of stories in the anthology films to be unbalanced in their quality, there is likely to be one story for everyone. Willow Creek is an American horror film that was released in 2013. Looking to make a splash online with his research videos into the existence of Bigfoot, Jim and his girlfriend Kelly take a camping trip to the small town of Willow Creek, California, and the surrounding mountains where the infamous footage of the supposed Sasquatch was filmed. Willow Creek is a found footage film that seems to divide horror fans on opinion, but I recently watched this for the first time and I genuinely enjoyed it. It is a slow build with minimum moments of scares. However, if you enjoy a slow build and a beautiful setting, then I would say this could be for you, as the slow build allows the film to create an incredibly effective, tense and uneasy atmosphere for the last third of the film. Afflicted is a Canadian horror film that was released in 2014. 2 friends' tour of Europe takes a dark turn when one of them contracts a mysterious illness. They race to find out what it is and how to cure it before the sickness consumes him completely. Again, another entry that seems to divide opinion, some crediting it as being an original found footage film and an original other subgenre which I won't mention in case it's a spoiler of the film, but there are also those that criticize it. As with many found footage films, they can often be accused of following certain tropes. Creep is an American horror film released in 2014. Aaron answers an online ad and drives to a stranger's house to film him for the day. The man wants to make a movie for his unborn child, but his requests become more bizarre as the day goes along. Creep is an incredible entry on this list, in my opinion. It's another entry that strips things back to a simple but great premise, but also manages to balance between moments of genuine scares with moments that genuinely make you laugh and smile. As Above, So Below is an American horror film that was released in 2014. When a team of explorers ventures into the catacombs that lie beneath the streets of Paris, they uncover the dark secret that lies within this city of the dead. As Above, So Below is a film guilty of falling into the trap of horror cliches, but sometimes you just don't want to be challenged that much, you just want to enjoy a simple horror film with some okay scares. And for those fans of The Descent, this film has you covered on a couple of claustrophobic moments. Unfriended is an American horror film that was released in 2014. While video chatting one night, 6 high school friends receive a Skype message from a classmate who killed herself exactly 1 year ago. At first they think it's a prank, but when the girl starts revealing the friend's darkest secrets, they realize they are dealing with something out of this world, something that wants them dead. Unfriended is the first on this list that explores social media as a way to make a found footage film, relying on web cameras and group chats. It's a pretty easy watch for the most part, often veering into typical teen horror. However, the heavy subject matter at its core can lead to more than one scene that is dark in content and uneasy to watch. Hell House LLC is an American horror film that was released in 2015. 5 years after an unexplained malfunction causes the death of 15 tour-goers and staff on the opening night of a Halloween haunted house tour, a documentary crew travels back to the scene of the tragedy to find out what really happened. This is another beloved found footage film. Sure, it's not for everyone, but it does have a large fan base. Sure, again, it falls slightly into that pit of why are the characters remaining there? Get out of there. But Hell House offers some great scares and a deliciously perfect setting for an October watch, with the story being set around a haunt night. And the image of the clown on the stairs will be seared into your brain. The Visit is an American horror film that was released in 2015. The terrifying story of a brother and sister who are sent to their grandparents' remote Pennsylvania farm for a long weekend trip. Once the children discover that the elderly couple is involved in something deeply disturbing, they see their chance of getting back home are growing smaller every day. The Visit sees the return of M. Night Shyamalan using a simpler story and unknown cast. It also, like Creep, blends the horror with some laughs. Gone GM Haunted Asylum is a Korean Korean horror film that was released in 2018. The crew of a horror web series travels to an abandoned asylum for a live broadcast, but they encounter much more than expected as they move deeper inside the nightmarish old building. Gonjiam Haunted Asylum is one of my personal favourites on this list. It's a classic horror blend of ghost hunters in a haunted asylum, filming their activity, and while this may not work for some, as it's, let's be honest, a well-trodden story, it does work for me because of the characters, the variety in technology that they're using to get the footage, and because of a couple genuinely scary moments. Host is an American horror film that was released in 2020. 6 friends hire a medium to hold a seance via Zoom during lockdown, but they get far more than they bargained for as things quickly go wrong. When the evil spirit starts invading their homes, they begin to realise they might not survive the night. Host was one of the first films to play on the lockdown and delivers a fantastic time capsule of the time. However, this may actually make it a film some people don't want to watch as they don't want to revisit that time just yet. But the setup and story, while being much more simplistic than Unfriended, is effective and delivers some solid scary moments. Spree is an American horror film that was released in 2020. Kurt, a rideshare driver thirsty for followers, has figured out a deadly plan to go viral. As his disturbing live stream is absurdly embraced by the social media hellscape, a comedian emerges as the only hope to stop this rampage. Following in the footsteps of Unfriended and Host, Spree is another film to use social media as its found footage, but this time it includes live streaming and comments on the like/followers culture of today. And finally, for number 25, I am actually going to include another entry for my previously mentioned franchise, and that is Hell House LLC Origins: The Carmichael Manor. This is an American horror that was released in 2023. A group of cold case investigators stay at the Carmichael Manor, site of the grisly and unsolved murders of the Carmichael family back in the 80s. After 4 nights, the group was never heard from again. What is discovered on their footage is even more disturbing than anything found on the Hell House tapes. The reason I'm including this is that while I have already included the original, I think this sequel deserves a mention as well. Hell House 2 and 3 were not, in my opinion, films to write home about, but this 4th film could perhaps be better than the original, and provided me with one of the most horrendous yet enjoyable watches of last year. This film was the scariest watch I've had in a long time, and I appreciate that experience, so it would be remiss of me to not suggest it to you. Alright, that about does it. 25 films in the found footage subgenre for you to enjoy, covering the classics and the hidden gems. And as this episode goes out, we have also had the release of Frogman, which proves that this subgenre is far from done, continuing to give us more films to check out. I hope this list was useful. Let me know in the comments which, if any, you will be checking out. For me personally, I will be watching Apollo 18 and Nuroi the Curse, although I'm kind of tempted to also watch As Above, So Below. When I first saw that advertised, I was like, yeah, that's not for me. That motion sickness and claustrophobia, that looks like hell, but I'm kind of tempted. As well as watching this episode, I have also put this list on my Letterboxd account so you can refer back to it for more ideas in the future. If you are new here, then please consider hitting that subscribe button and the like button to join the What the Horror family. And if you would like to join this list of names and get extra content, then there is a link to my Patreon page in the description box below. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye. That's what you get choosing a film at school runtime. Kids, cars, fucking hell, mate.